Corn picking starts every morning at 7:30, 7 days a week. It's got to be a fresh product. It can't be something that you pick and then sell it for 4 or 5 days. When you first start picking, it's so hot. You're sweating like crazy, but when you're finishing up in October, maybe the last week of September, you come over here and the corn is ice cold. You're freezing your hands trying to pick the corn. Some mornings the corn is so wet it's almost like picking it in the rain. And then other mornings when you have a low humidity, the corn is fairly dry and it's not a bad job. Basically, you pull it, you don't pick it, you snap it. So sometimes you got to put both hands on them to get them off. And then you get the little shot in the face with a tassel here when you pick it. Just that little extra Mother Nature gives you. It's a matter of when you're picking it, you have to grab the top here and measure the top with your hand. And if it's big enough here, you know it's ready to pick. The biggest problem is being able to work the soil early in the spring. You have to start plowing in April, and if you're into a long rainy stretch, the ground is very wet and you can't plow it. You can plow it, but you'll regret it for the rest of the year. The first planting, you may lose 25% of the seed you plant. It will never come up, and then as you get into the warmer, get into June, things are warmer. Providing there's enough moisture, you may get up into 95% germination. And so you see here's 1, 2, 3 plants are missing here. And it might have been just because this rock raised the planter up out of the ground, or it was because it got planted too deep or too shallow, or the ground was too cold and the seed wasn't strong enough to survive. This is what's called the second picking. It's the second ear on the plant. Usually you get 2 ears. And this one ear comes early, and then the second ear will be ready a week later. See, it's very young yet. Good. Better than cornflakes. The hardest part is knowing when to plant your corn, your first planting, so that it's ready on the 1st of August, the day you open. Now, some years you can plant, like this corn here, the Silver King, that's an 82-day corn. It's supposed to be mature in 82 days. Well, you can plant it on the 7th of May, 1 year, and it'll be ready on the 25th of August. And then the next year you plant it on the 7th of May, and it's ready on the 15th of August. So there's a huge variation, depending of course on how many degree days you had, how much sunshine you had, how many heat units you had. You have to start spraying an insecticide on every 5 to 7 days to keep the earworm moths from laying their eggs on the silk. And of course the eggs go down the silks and get into the top of the ear. Now this is called corn borer damage. This worm is actually in the field when you plant, whereas the earworm moth comes in from the south on the thunderstorms that come up from the south. You have to put insecticides on so that they don't destroy the corn like this. See what they do to it? Eat big sections out. Now that's earworm damage. This is corn borer damage. This is one of our favorite weeds. This Mother Nature has designed this thing so it can keep right up with the corn. It doesn't get shaded out, and actually it'll grow taller than the corn. It's called a velvet leaf. The leaves are very soft. They're almost like velvet. Feel that? It's like a soft piece of cloth. Isn't that amazing? And no insects will bother this leaf. They'll eat up the corn, but they will never bother this weed. Now here's your going to be your flower and your seeds right here. And they're very prolific, as you can see. There's just tons of seed on here, so that we'll have more of them next year. And you can't pull this out of the ground. One man can't pull one out of the ground. That's how well rooted it is. It's a tough competitor for corn. If you get any percentage of this in a cornfield, the corn is going to have a hard time of it. Because this will take the moisture and it'll take all the light. See how it grabs all the light here? That corn isn't getting any light with this thing in front of it. This was probably the most frustrating year I ever had for growing corn, because just about everything that could go wrong went wrong. Growing corn is a gigantic pain in the ass, that's all it is. I wouldn't do it, except you can't buy sweet corn like we grow, so you have to do it. You can't go out and buy it on the open market.